All right. Better on Draft episode number 3, the Michigan Series. We appreciate you coming on out and joining us. My name is Ken. Going over through all the hosts real quick to see what you are all drinking. I'm probably going to need to go to the refrigerator right behind me, but I am back. I finished that Warka from the Zwichik Brewery in Poland from our news segment. Obviously, as everyone is listening knows, we are recording episodes 2, 3, and 4 tonight. So I'm back to El Rojo over at Griffin Claw. Wendy, what are you
Nice.
drinking over there?
They have a Murky Christmas from Austin Brothers. It's
Oh,
fantastic, and I have to admit that I have not had an Austin Brothers beer that I did not like, and I've never said that about any brewery.
well, somebody's trying to suck up to our guests. Let's get through the rest of the hosts before we bring them in. Nick, what are you drinking?
I think well, I'm definitely, I know I am. I'm still milking what I still believe is a Hazel's Nuts from Oddside Brewing. And the only reason, and I did say this earlier for the Facebook crowd, you guys can see this. It's because it's the dad beer. My wife took the label off, so I really don't know what it is.
Ah,
But it sure tastes like Hazel's Nuts.
that's a fair reason to have a mystery beer. Robert, what are you drinking?
I was looking for some cuckoo for cacao, but I ended up just deciding myself that I love it when a plan comes together. So I'm having myself an A team from Austin Brothers because that's what it is.
And Daniel,
Cuckoo for Cacao, isn't that named after a Faith No More song that just popped into my head when you said that? I'm drinking a wet nose or wet snout peanut butter stout from Sleepy Dog out here in Arizona, also Chicago since it got bought out.
there you go. And we do have a guest here today. It's been a minute
It's been a minute.
since we chatted with you, but Chris over at Austin Brothers, why don't you say hello and tell us what you do over there?
So my name's Chris. I'm the sales director over at Austin Brothers Beer Company. I've been on board there coming up on 2 years now. Handle officially handle distribution out to the state. Currently, part-time waiter, part-time can crew, high-low operator, just about a little bit of anything. Shoveled snow today, kind of whatever we need to do to get through the next couple months here, and then we'll get back to selling beer to the street in the streets.
Well, I wanted to bring up I'm getting a little echo on you, so just so you know, I wanted to bring up the very first question because I think there is a huge misconception, and I think you can solve it. We talked about it during the news segment, which you could have checked out last week on the 1218 news segment. Um, with the new rules of Michigan, there are a lot of not inconsistencies, but people following the rules and people not. Um, what are you guys doing to bring people up to Alpena so that they can still enjoy your beer at the tap room?
So thankfully, we've had a pretty mild winter up here. We got about 13 inches of snow last Saturday, but it's the first snow we've seen all year. Other than that, it's been fairly mild. We did install 10 4-foot infrared heaters along the whole length of our patio, which kick out some nice heat. We bought some little tabletop heaters, and then we purchased these back in September. They finally started showing up last week. We bought enough roll up garage door style vinyl curtains to enclose our whole patio. That being said, wouldn't do us a lot of good currently. However, it sounds like some regulations changed where we can actually block off two sides of our patio and still leave, as long as they're not adjoining. We could have kind of the building side and then the parking lot side covered, and with the heaters working, and as long as two sides remain open, that's still considered outside space, and will give us, 4 or 5 tables, which is better than zero. And then we are looking at one tricky thing with us. We're inside the city limits of Alpena, who don't allow fires. So we're going to look into some kind of variance. So we could have some fire pits kind of out in the yard for people that want to come out and sit and have a beer on a nice day.
I think that helps you follow what the Winter Beer Fest does. If you can kind of pull that off, and I think people want to drink, and I think people want to get out and go drink. So as long as you're providing that heat source, I think a lot of people will go. But I know um, Dan was begging me, you could say, to ask you some questions. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna send it off to Dan because I want to hear what Dan wanted to say.
Chris, I'm glad I'm finally on the show for Austin Brothers, because every time someone from Austin Brothers has been on, I seem to be in Europe, seem to be somewhere. So first off, I'm from Rogers City, so it's finally great to finally talk to you guys as far as that goes. My first question here is, how have the locals taken to a brewery in Alpena? Like, I know how people drink up there. I know what people do. How have they accepted you guys as far as beer goes?
Our local market's absolutely amazing. I mean, not just through the shutdown, but this whole time. I mean, obviously Alpena is a bit of a tourism seasonal destination. So even in the off seasons, we're busy. Our local stores support us well. The Meyer in town outsells some of our distributors. I mean, and that's mostly locals that shop there. So, I mean, we have great local support, especially this year. It's been amazing. People doing carry out and curbside and ordering, gift cards this time of year, kegs to go. I mean, it's definitely, it's a risk that the brothers took when they opened, being so far from a major market and a major population base. But the population base has been absolutely amazing throughout the history of the brewery, but especially this year really kept us going because we didn't necessarily have all the tourism we normally have in the summertime. And we were just as busy a normal summer.
Awesome. Now, I'm glad you mentioned that, especially being into the sales. Alpena's one thing. How are the cities or even the villages outside of there? How is like a Nighthawk Inn? How is a Greeka's? How are these places doing, or what are they doing with your beer? Are they buying it at all?
Absolutely. It's funny to me, you drive around, you drive by these bars and you kind of have an idea of what kind of bar it is inside. And, they have one wall outside's a big Budweiser poster, and the other wall is a big Woody Wheat 45er inside poster. The locals have, you can't go to a bar in this town, I don't think, I might be wrong, but everyone I've ever been to, high end shot in a beer, any kind of bar, it might not be their number one seller, but everybody in town definitely carries it and pushes it too. I mean, it's amazing just driving up and down through town, just the outside signage on buildings. I mean, everybody's saying, hey, they're here to support local. It's fun to see.
Awesome. Now, I was taking a look at your tap list. It looks like you had almost 30 beers on tap currently. Are all of those moving as far as the number of taps you currently have?
So, last couple weeks it slowed down a bit, but we've been able to maintain, even through the shutdown, about 20 beers on tap. We're kind of in a funny spot now where I have 4, 5, 6 barrels that have been sitting around for a week or two that need to go away, just due to, through Thanksgiving we were pretty busy, and then with the weather cooling down, obviously the food sales are still good. We had a delivery to go, that kind of stuff, but there's not as much drinking on premise. So, and we haven't been kegging a lot either. I mean, everything, we went from a brewery that was 50% or so package draft to about 96% package. So, I mean, the kegs we are putting on, we're, throwing on 1/2 barrel of something and riding it till it's gone.
Awesome. Now, one other thing I was wondering here, I was taking a look at your menu. I don't really see anything barrel aged. Do you guys have any plans or looking into doing anything stouts, browns, porters, barrel aged?
We do one barrel aged beer a year, mostly for space reasons. The brewery's not very big. We have enough room to store about 12 bourbon barrels, stacked 4 high, in 2s. So we release one beer every year for anniversary party, Sumo Sumatra Imperial Stout. We brew it at actually Sumo's coming. Yeah, that's Robert. He's a big fan. So Sumo Sumatra Imperial Stout will be coming out in about 3 or 4 weeks. So we do a giant batch. Half of it we release unbarrel aged, throw it in cans, and then the rest will go into barrels. And then actually in September, after we empty those barrels, we did it last year in a small scale, and we did it on a larger scale this year. We take our base porter recipe and throw it into those second use barrels. And then when it comes out, we're going to treat it with some coffee, some maple walnut coffee that we found that we really like. So kind of a, Parent Little Grizz, not aggressively barrel aged, 7% porter with some coffee. I'm a big fan. It's a big sessionable barrel aged porter. So we would like to get into it more. We've had requests for it more. We just don't have the space currently, as the footprint stands, to put any more barrels anywhere.
Awesome. Speaking of Rob, I believe he has the next question here for you.
All right. So I had noticed that you guys were looking at doing some sort of expansion. So much so that I kind of found that you guys actually had a video on YouTube that was going through the presentation on how you guys were planning on expanding. I guess talk to us about those expansion plans, including from what I saw in there that it looks like you guys are looking to go to Lisbon in Portugal.
That's news to me. The expansion, it was more, the building itself was built to be a brewery first and a restaurant second. Quickly realized that the restaurant portion is very successful also. That being said, it's not a very big tap room. So the expansion initially would probably be a larger building on the site we're at, to add a bigger kitchen, a bigger restaurant space, some more outdoor space. This year put a big kink in a lot of those plans. We'll see kind of where that goes. And then they've always kind of kicked around the idea of a second location somewhere in Metro Detroit, more of like a tap room or a tasting room than an actual full-scale brewery. But once again, I mean, there's been things floated up to us that sound interesting, but nothing, we're still kind of busy up here right now, or we probably don't want to be, going back and forth yet. But I wouldn't put it out of the question. For now, our big plan for expansion would be expanding kind of we have a nice big space up here. Add some more buildings, add some more square footage. I'd be able to kick more beer out up here.
And definitely the sumo series, obviously the sumo Sumatra is definitely one of my favorite beers, and had I was able to find that in my run this afternoon, I would have grabbed that first thing what I would have grabbed. But I've also noticed that there's been quite a few beers that have been coming out in the sumo series. So I guess talk to us about some of those and that creation of going into different variants, so to speak, of the sumo series.
So that's kind of one of the fun parts of the job is, sumo is just, sumo now is basically just our big imperial stout base, and you kind of do whatever you want with it. So we'll go and there's a coffee roaster in town. There's one down in Grayling. There's a couple that we use where we'll go and get a bunch of different coffees, kind of grind it up, French press it into beers, find which ones we like, which ones we don't. We actually did another run last year called Peruvian Sumo. We found these really cool coffee beans out of Peru. That one probably will be coming back later this winter. And we're always on the lookout for more variants. Actually, the Cuckoo for Cacao kind of starts out life as Sumo, just gets boiled a lot longer to get the alcohol up. And instead of adding the coffee, we added every chocolate thing we could find in Alpina and a little bit of cacao.
Nice. And one other thing which I will always say this is that in being in Alpena, the home of the filming of Die Hard 2, that you guys should make some sort of tour out of that. I don't know how to do it, but you guys should do something for that, because that movie is still, one of my favorites. But kind of going back real quick to that presentation, one of the things that it alluded to in the beginning of it was talking about how America's craft beer revolution is still going strong. And I guess I'm curious from your perspective, how has, or rather, how is craft beer still going strong for you? And in terms of specific beers that you have, are there certain ones that have been selling far more strongly than others?
I mean, the story is going to be pretty much the same as most people that you guys have been talking to lately. I mean, the growth this year has been our Murky series again, our New England style IPAs. The smoothie series, which is basically we take our Merc beers, we add a ton of fruit and some vanilla to them. Those have also continued. They kind of leveled out this year, but they're still a very big piece of our portfolio. And then a big growth this year has been in our kettle sour program. We kettle sour a beer, add thousands and thousands of pounds of puree, let it ferment out properly. And that series has really been on the rise for us. And then we've also seen a rise more so locally, because we haven't really done much distribution yet downstate with it. We launched a light beer this year, gluten reduced, under 10 parts per billion, 95 calories, 4.3, 2.34 grams carbs, called Northern Lights, that you'll start seeing down that way. That beer, I mean, we were selling 30, 40 cases a week out of the brewery alone. The Meyer in town had half an end cap. So that style, that light lager category, we don't want to play in the seltzer world, but we know there's obviously a health conscious piece of what people are drinking. So we wanted to introduce a beer like that. Had some fun with the graphics. And then I'd say lastly, I mean, our 45er IPA continues to grow. It's the most traditional West Coast IPA brewed in Michigan, if you ask me. And that style, I think, some people kind of get over the haze. They're going to go back to the kind of that traditional crystal clear, Pilsner based, 7%, 70 IBU IPA. And that's what 45er is.
With breweries that are making more health conscious beers, why do you not think, especially it's a fad, and here you go for a bingo square, but why do you think breweries do not make keto beers more often?
I don't know if it's so. I think it's maybe more craft breweries have a hard time achieving that flavor profile and be happy with it. I think that's why a lot of people go the seltzer route because it hits that button. I mean, it took us a long time to develop Northern Lights to get like a really low carb, low calorie beer that tasted like something we'd put our name on. That tasted like a beer and tasted like a crafted beer. I mean, obviously the big boys have had great luck. Mick Ultra Trend, stuff like that. But it's hard to make a beer that has some character, that has the numbers that people are looking for.
Gotcha. All right, I think I'm going to pass that over to Wendy. She's got a couple questions.
So, like I said earlier, I have never had a beer from Austin Brothers that I didn't like, but I wasn't here when you guys were on the show before. So I kind of want to just get a little bit of information about how you guys came about, because it seemed like I never heard of you, and then you were everywhere.
So I'll take credit for the everywhere. No, just kidding. Two brothers. They were born and raised Southern California. Their dad was on the fire department out for San Bernardino. He was getting close to being able to retire. He knew he did not want to retire in California. So over the course of a couple summers, when the brothers were in high school, they did the old family RV road trip cross country, 2 summers in a row, or 2 out of 3 summers. And just by pure luck, they flew to Florida, bought an RV, and were driving it back to California, but decided to go up through Michigan and across to visit some family in Utah, Idaho, one of them. But they got to that 75-23 split. Blake Austin, one of the brothers, was navigating. Dad said 75 or 23. He said, well, I've never seen a Great Lake. It says there's a Great Lake this way. Let's go this way. They ran out of daylight in Alpena. Stayed there for 3-4 days, really liked it. A couple years later came back, and so when it came time for Dad to finally retire, he said, so everywhere in the country, where do you want to go? And pretty much it was unanimous. We want to move to Alpena.
So they'd never been here for winter?
No, I think they waited. They didn't get here till winter until but actually, I tell you what, our winters up here have been better than the winters down there lately. So knock on wood. I lived in Metro Detroit my whole life. I just moved up here a little over a year ago. And last winter was a piece of cake. So I probably just jinxed myself.
Oh, hold on a second. Hold on a second. You have no idea. Just wait.
The Thunder Bay keeps us warmer. That's
I've said for years that I would have gone to Northern University if I had been to Marquette in the springtime and not the wintertime.
So we actually had the brothers and the father, Austin Brothers, on episode number 111. So if you guys go back into the archives of Better on Draft and you go to episode 111, which was 3 years ago, you can listen to that. Trust me when I say that it is one of those drunk episodes, as we call it. The father, nonetheless, definitely got drunk. That's for sure.
I heard that they like to party.
They do like to party. I'm looking at the information, and we were drinking Cinnamon Toast Crunch from, and we had Black Note Stout, and we French pressed Cinnamon Toast Crunch with Black Note Stout.
Oh, geez, I remember that.
Those were the days.
Yeah, that was episode 111. Go check it out on Better on Draft. Chris, I know we kind of asked this near the end. I kind of want to know what you're drinking right now and what non-Austin Brothers beer is in your fridge right now.
So right now I'm drinking Cuckoo for Cacao because this is like one of 3 cans I have left, and I figured it'd be a good time to crack it. We sent it all downstate. Didn't save much for us, but I figured I'd have one. And the beer in my fridge right now, the non-Austin Brothers, is going to be Ascension. Those guys, we did the collab. We had a lot of fun. Have a lot in like. We do similar style beers, and I like a lot of their beers. So I have we trade back and forth. Samples, of course, samples, and keep the fridge full with Ascension.
So, what beer, what Austin Brothers beer would you tell people that they need to try if they've never had an Austin Brothers beer?
For me, I would say probably the most it's hard because my sales guy is going to say have a beer that we always have. So I'd say 45er is that beer that I'm going to tell everybody to try, because that kind of shows you, hey, we're an IPA place. This is a good one. I could pick a couple Mercs out, but chances are it's on your store shelf for 2 weeks and you'll never see it again. So, we definitely get a lot of that. Like, oh, I had your beer this one time. It was really great work and I find it. And then it's one we made 3 years ago and they're pretty bummed they can't find it again. So I would say probably 45 would be the beer that, it's crisp, it's refreshing. It's, nice balanced bitterness. And that would be the one that kind of says, yes, this is kind of the quintessential what Austin Brothers is.
But if you say you're an IPA place, is it really like kind of the flagship or like everything? Because there are other breweries that I tend to see that are what I consider an IPA or like a sour place, like Holmes, that does a lot of sours, to the point where it was like just customers begging for them to do a stout, which they finally did. But do you really consider yourself like an IPA place, considering I kind of feel like there's other beers that you guys make that are very high quality as outside of the IPAs, but obviously with the Murkies are, I guess in a way that's where the money's at, because there's a lot of those different styles and different variants that you're making.
And that's so, it's one of those where, like I said, we always have 16 or 18 beers on tap. Like my favorite beer that we make is probably our amber, but that's not going to be the beer I'm going to tell somebody like, go out and try my amber, because it's a good amber, but it's an amber. We have, we pride ourselves on, no matter what kind of beer you like, you come to the brewery, we'll have your favorite style beer and it'll be a good version of it. So I won't say that we're an IPA brewery, because I think our sours are good. I think our stouts are good. I think everything those guys touch is good, which makes my job really easy. But like you said, it is kind of hard to say what are you guys? Well, no, we're not a sour brewery. We make 3 or 4 sour beers a year. They're amazing. But that's definitely not what we're known for. So I guess it's more of, is there a such thing as like, hey, we're a variety brewery? No.
And it's a good thing. That's a good thing to be, I think, for myself, or to be a variety brewery, because, I'm not the type that just wants to stick with IPAs. That just wants to stick with stouts or stick with ambers. I want to try and have everything. I want to see in Austin Brothers Doppelbock. I want to see a Dunkel. I want to see a Pils. I want to see a Vlogger. I want to have everything, and I think that's kind of the thing that I feel like every brewery should be judged on. Now, while most of the people that we have on here, and ourselves included, will basically say that a brewery is basically judged by how well they make a lager, because you can't hide when you make a lager. But I want to test and taste everything out there to see what your capabilities are, both in the standard styles that some people around here find boring, to the adjunct styles that like we were talking with Perrin about, looking at the label and there'd be like 16 different adjuncts that's added to the beer. I want to see the complexity of everything that's added. So
I want to interrupt real quick before you go, because you mentioned that amber is a style that you like, but it's not the style necessarily that you're going to sell. But when you're looking at mass-produced beers, amber is the most basic intro to craft beer that there is. Killian's, Amberbach, like these beers, Smittix. Like these beers exist, whereas there's not really an intro to IPA beer. Why do you think you have to shy away from your amber versus?
So we can our amber, and we sell a decent amount of it. So that's the cool thing of the breweries. We started out, we opened, we had a bottling line, and we bottled 3 beers. Because to change, add new bottles, it's expensive. You had 6-packs, you had cardboard. Switching to the can line, right, probably saved the brewery with all the things that happened this year, but allows us, I mean, we have 14 to 16 beers available in package every day at the brewery. We can our blonde, we can our amber, we can our brown, we can our porter, our milk stout. It's all available in cans. Our local distributor, they put all of it on the shelf. And then some of our downstate guys, they pick and choose seasonally. I'm not going to ask the distributor to carry 18 different beers at a time. It's just, not reasonable on their end. It creates a lot of old beer. And so we definitely pick and choose and rotate. But no, I pushed pretty hard, and our amber we push in draft statewide, but in cans we pick and choose our markets. I do can it, so I agree there is a spot for it, and we definitely have it available if people think they have a home for it. I also play with, we have a pretty large distribution network. If they have another Michigan brewery that's known for their amber, and I give them an amber, they're going to push the brewery that's their flagship. So we kind of play in that area by area. We try to send them the beers that are unique to their market from us. So we're their number one horse down there for that brand.
So I'm not gonna lie, I had a really hard time trying to pick out which beer to drink tonight. There was a plethora of Austin Brothers beer, and they all sounded delicious. And I'm actually kicking myself right now that I didn't get the Cuckoo for Cacao, and I'm gonna go back and get it tomorrow.
Yeah,
There was no question. I just wanted to point that out.
So Robert, you do got to come up. Brant, our brewmaster, Brant Austin, went to brew school in Germany. He learned how to make a great Pilsner. We have it on tap right now, Besser Pilsner. Kind of a play on words, obviously Besser, better for German. Besser is also one of the large plants in Alpena, employs, a third of the town. The museum's named after the Bessers, the elementary school. They're kind of like one of Alpena's first families. So Besser Pilsner is one of our standbys. But yeah, I mean, the classic styles, that's what he was trained to brew. But obviously, a brewery's in business to make money, so you got to make the styles that sell also.
Right.
Well, I'm gonna interrupt you, Robert. Sorry, but I feel this is a very important topic because we've talked about it so many times with different brewers. We've talked about it especially with Travis over at Old Nation. Brewing what you love, brewing good beer doesn't make you necessarily money. When Austin Brothers is making beer, obviously they have to worry about the bottom line because they have to make the next batch, they have to make the next beer, they have to make everything. As a salesperson, how do you go about not necessarily because I mean Austin Brothers makes amazing beer for all the beer that they make, but their best beer is not their top selling beer. How do you go about trying to sneak in those amazing beers while selling, say, the very hazy boys and West Coast boys that you might be selling?
So I mean, it's one of those where and sometimes we make a beer that we really want to make, and you kind of go out to your distribution crew, and they're like, "Oh, it's not another Merc," and it's like, "No, but trust me, people are gonna like this." And they're like, "But people aren't gonna, are they gonna buy it? It's not a Merc." And it's one of those where, trust me, the beer's good. We think it's relevant to what's going on right now. And I always say it's the logo on the can. People will try it one time, and if it's good, and if it's good, they'll keep buying it. But you definitely have to, especially in the summertime, tank space is tight, because our flagships are jamming, and then you're trying to get Mercs out there, and you really have to sneak in beers you want to make and make tank space for them, or otherwise, yeah, you pretty much are just kicking out, your 3 or 4 cores, and then rotate through your Mercs, and that's all you have room for. So we make an effort to create a schedule where you can still play with stuff that maybe we think is coming on trend, or stuff that we just want to make for us and hope we can sell enough that we can get rid of a batch.
What's on trend for you upcoming? What do you think is coming in 2021? We're still in COVID probably for the next 6 months. What's on trend for you?
So we just released a beer that we're hoping, we're starting to get some feedback on. It's kind of a crossover. It's called West England, where basically we took a Merc beer, an old Merc recipe, brewed it true to style, and then ran it through some filters. Not our like super clean filters, but the ones that we use for like our double West Coast. So it's a clear beer that has the aroma, has the mouthfeel, and has that like appear or has that not appearance, but like it feels like a New England, but it's not. And I don't know if it's something, it's definitely not as thick and chewy, which to me is kind of the best of both worlds, where you get that nice flavor of New England, but it's crushable. Instead of putting that in 4-packs, we put it in 6-packs because you can drink a 6-pack. So I think it's, I want to be that, hey, I think it's going to be crushable lagers and sessionable beers. I don't think it's going there yet. It's going to start trending that way. And that's kind of where we're at, is we're going to be that, maybe drop a couple more sessionable sours that aren't so fruited. And then, kind of play with the not as thick, not as creamy, New England, but, it's IPA for us. It's just, we're going to try to play with different styles.
I know Robert's got a follow up to this.
All right. So, and really, I guess I'll start first. A quick shout out to one of my coworkers, Dan Olette, who loves your milk route stouts. He definitely will go to any store and he can find where he will track that down. But I was actually curious about, we kind of talked about expansion. Let's kind of go back to it a little bit. I'm curious about your distribution and how distribution has been growing. Do you want to get outside of Michigan, or did 2020 kind of kill that and you just want to like build into Michigan a little bit more? Or is there the thought that, try to get a little bit more into the Midwest and maybe go even further?
So there's still a lot of room for us to grow in Michigan. I mean, we still haven't touched the shelves in some of the major chains. There's still some markets. The Metro Detroit's really good to us. The west side of the state's good to us. The Tri-City area is really good to us, and obviously our home market. But there's like some, like Michigan Shore, where it's hard to find our beer in Traverse City. There's some giant markets we haven't even touched yet. That being said, we have started shipping beer outside the state this year. We signed on with Tavor. And we have shipped them, I think, 9 or 10 different beers. That's probably, those kind of subscription delivery services are probably as far as we want to go for now, where we can get some beer, small amounts of beer in people's hands. I worked on the distribution side for 11 years prior to coming on board here. And I've seen kind of the struggles of what happens when a brewery leaves their home state. It's hard to stay top of mind. You have to put a lot of resources into those other states to keep people pushing. And in the end, I mean, it's to me, it's silly to grow just to expand, to spend more resources to make sure that expansion is working. So I think for now, we're more than happy with Michigan. There's plenty more beer for us to sell here first. And then even with this, I think it's one of those where you hit that spot where it's like, okay, we're happy with where we're at. We're profitable. The beer is selling quickly. It's well received, and we're trying to keep it to where, we don't have to start expanding to kind of keep up with the size of the brewery.
Talk to us about your Tavor partnership and dealing with Tavor, because I think we haven't really necessarily talked to people who have sold through Tavor. How do you guys decide what beer goes through Tavor? How do you guys get information from Tavor of how the beer is receptive? Like, what is that process for you guys?
Yeah,
basically, sure. I send them a calendar for the year, and then we kind of touch base once a month, and they're very, due to the fact that a lot of the people buying their beer are not familiar with the breweries they're buying the beers from. They're very sensitive to Untappd ratings. So pretty much every beer they're going to buy has to be a 4 or higher, or from a series that typically rates 4 or higher. So that's kind of they kind of look at our beers and say, okay, yes, these are the 12 beers that you're making this year that I think would be interested in, if we can get some. And then once it comes closer, they just give me, okay, yeah, we want 80 cases, we want 120 cases, if we can get it. And then we try to get them as close. But there's some back and forth. I've tried to kind of prod them and see what kind of styles that they're looking for, because I think that's obviously an indication of what the market's looking for, nationally. But as far as feedback from them goes, they usually send me reports of how many people see our beer in each state and how many people buy it that see it. They have a lot of cool like conversion rates and a lot of really cool numbers. Ken, I'm a numbers guy. So they send me spreadsheets where I can sit and look and, okay, 83% of the people in California that saw the beer bought it, but only 42% in Utah. It shows you how long it lasted in each state. It's really some pretty fascinating stuff with their numbers on that side of it. But for the most part, I shoot them, hey, here's the beer. How's it sound? Great. Give me 100. Cool. And then, they send UPS or FedEx freight the day we can it, and it leaves the day we can it. So with the idea being it gets to them in 2 or 3 days and hopefully out to market within 3 weeks.
With Tavor choosing 4.0 and higher, like how do you guys push? Because a 4.0 and higher on tap doesn't really mean much, because in my opinion, because there are a lot of styles and brands that just don't have that type of love.
When I signed down with them, or we signed on them, I basically knew, okay, we're sending you our mercs, our sours, our smoothies, and then maybe, the sumos, the slamnesias, like we're never going to send them because, like you said, yeah, it's hard to get a style that isn't a hype style that scores above a 4. So that was we knew that was what they were going to be looking for. And if you look on Tavor's app, it's for the most part, it's hype beer.
See, and that's definitely one of the things I was curious about as a consumer for Tavor, how they get in contact with breweries and how you guys really pick what beers that you guys are going to put out. And personally, I kind of feel like with Tavor that them having to only deal with beers that rate above 4, that I think it's a little bit unfair, considering there are a lot of people who pull their Yelp review on things on Untapped and will rate things very low because they may not love anything that may be going on. But I do still have my code that's still running on Tavor. It is code Robert, ROBEAR, which will get you a $10 off certificate after the first $25 that you spend on beer on Tavor. I apparently have a box that is on the way that will be showing up next week. That is going a little bit over the beer budget, but hey, the brewery project came up with Drank. I had to pick that one up again.
Drank.
They do let us pick what states we go to too, which is nice. They did ask us, hey, you guys sell beer in Michigan, we'll avoid Michigan, or any other states you want to be in, any other states you want to avoid. So that is one nice thing they did, is kind of let us pick and choose kind of where at least where we don't want our beer to go.
Is there a state where you don't want your beer to go?
No, not at all. No, other than Michigan, because like I said, I have, we have a great distributor network, and I don't want to, be competing with them via app.
I guess that makes sense if you have more than just Michigan. In my head, I'm like, do you not want your beer distributed? But that makes a little.
No, I'm not going to go
sense
there today.
That's probably what they were thinking of when they gave them that option.
Yeah, because I have heard of some breweries that do ship beer into states where they're already distributed, and they have, there has been some issues between the distributor in that state and the brewery and Tavor. So I mean that, sometimes breweries care, sometimes they don't, I guess. But
being in the industry for as long as you have been, how do you, as a salesperson, how do you get in that shot in a beer place? Like, you have, like, the shot in a beer place that I know up there in Alpena is Bogarts. How do you get in a place like that? How do you sell Bogarts?
So, I mean, I started out, I sold Budweiser for my first 10 years. I was, I worked at a large AB house. My first sales route was Pontiac. I mean, that was, I learned how to sell beer and shot at beer bars. You don't go in selling based on, hey, this is a great West Coast IPA, 7%, 70 IBUs, the Centennial really shines. You walk in, you get to know the person, you hand them a beer, and they buy it because they like you, and they like your brewery and your local. So, who cares what the beer tastes like, right? To them, it's more, they're going to support you because of who you are and what your story is. And they're hoping they can find some consumers to move that product.
Well, that was a lot quicker answer than I expected. But you definitely covered everything. I'm gonna finish the show because we're running up on time. I appreciate you taking the time out of the day. This is the Michigan Series, where we're focusing a little bit more on the Michigan breweries, the folks who have brought us to where we are here at Better on Draft. Of course, you can like us on all of our socials. Better on Draft on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Bod Podcast on Untapped, and Twitch. TV. Of course, betterondraft.tv. You can follow us live Friday nights. We'll be back next year, January 8th. Chris, my final question for you. I'm just kind of like removing all final questions. Sorry for anyone who had a final question. You can answer or ask him privately. I'll give you his Facebook information. Chris, one of the things that I noticed in the first time that I poured for you over at a beer fest, you had a consistent line that never stopped. How do you guys promote yourselves at a beer festival that has 100+ other breweries there? How do you guys try to make yourselves stand out?
So it's all, it's we make sure we have one or two beers that people may have heard of but haven't had a chance to try. And then I think we always, it depends on the season, but you always got to bring that one heavy hitter, the sumo or the slam or whatever depending on whatever festival it is, not, but bring enough that we have it all day. We're not one of those where we want to run out of beer in 3 minutes and watch Robert crying because the barrel aged sumo just ran out. We want to make sure we have enough for the weekend. Although the last couple of festivals we have run out of all beer a couple hours early. But I mean, it's and I think a lot of people want to come see us because they can't come see us at the brewery. Especially we're in Grand Rapids, we're in Detroit, we're in a lot of the downstate festivals. They've had 6 or 7 of our beers, but haven't had more, and want to get to see what else we're doing because I mean it's definitely worth the drive. I'm going to throw that out there. Super happy I moved up here. Really enjoyed up here. It's definitely we got another brewery coming into town, so it'll be a whole brewing destination. And but I think at festivals especially, people can't visit us every day, so they definitely want to come see us at the fest.
All right, Chris Heikkuri, Austin Brothers. Thank you so much for joining us. You can find them at Austin Bros Beer Co. on Instagram. Check them out. Thank you so much for joining. Of course, no matter what you think of your beer, we think it's better on
Better on draft.
draft. Have a good night.
Peace.